Hi, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for checking us out today. My name is Tarsha Wiggins. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and certified alcohol and drug counselor. Our topic today is going to be a little bit more about warning signs of suicide. In some of our previous videos, I've talked about suicide. We talked about the myths. We've also talked about depression and anxiety. And I thought it would be really great to just kind of circle back to some of those topics and talk a little bit more in depth about the warning signs in relation to suicide. But as you'll hear me say in every video, before we jump into our content, I always say these videos are intended to be of educational value to you. They're not intended for you to treat or diagnose yourself independently. Please consult a behavioral health professional, okay? So now that we have that out of the way, let's jump into the topic. I really wanted to preface this conversation today with the notion of making sure we all approach this content with the understanding that suicide is not caused by one single thing. Instead, it's the combination of warning signs and life experiences and traumas and just everything that happens. It's the combination of those things that can help bring about the warning signs that we're going to talk about today. And it's those things that can increase the risk of someone completing suicide. So let's just know that one thing does not cause suicide, okay? With that, let's go ahead and let's talk about what those warning signs are. The first one I always addresses just those things that are very imminent, things that are observable. So those are some of the ones that I think most of us are aware of or we know a little bit more about. That being the individual is actively suicidal. They're saying they want to kill themselves. They're threatening to kill themselves, or they want to hurt themselves. Individuals, perhaps they're looking for a means in which to complete suicide, be that a gun, a knife, stockpiling medication, things of that nature. Another thing is another very imminent warning sign is individuals writing about how they want to complete suicide, or how dying may be a solution to their means. So those are kind of those imminent, very observable warning signs of suicide. I want to spend some time also talking about kind of some of the more, what I perceive to be as a bit more passive, those things that can be a little subtle, but you're just not quite sure where that behavior or the thought, the mindset is coming from, in terms of what those warning signs look like, because it could be something else, or it could be maybe something that might be in relation to suicide. So I think it's really important we talk about those because I think those are the things that we tend to see more of, and we're just not quite sure how to have that conversation, or really how to identify that behavior as, yes, the combination of what you've expressed or what I've seen in the last week, these are things, or these are behaviors of someone that may be thinking about or who may be having suicidal thoughts, okay? So this list is a little bit longer, but I'm going to try to shorten it down, and this is not an exhaustive list, okay? So some of the first things that always come to mind is in the individuals that are sometimes not as imminent or directed in their behavior, are the individuals that just have this very rapid and extreme range of behaviors, kind of those like drastic mood shifts. Maybe these individuals are crying very persistently. Individuals have this rage, and they're also very focused on like wanting revenge oftentimes. Other things that we tend to see from individuals in this area are the increase of substance use. Maybe the individuals have increased their alcohol consumption or recreational use of other substances. Perhaps we also might see is individuals oftentimes begin to become more isolative, which I think is a very tricky thing for us to kind of navigate and sense from people while we're in this pandemic. Oftentimes you'll also start to see individuals start to give things away, or and they may describe it as I'm downsizing, or I just want to help other people. I want to be a blessing to other people. We may see though that kind of behavior. We also may see individuals start to step back from some of their responsibilities or obligations that they have. And again, they may mask that and just say like, oh, I feel like I have a lot on my plate. But if you see a combination of these things, maybe the person is most sullen, withdrawn, they're giving things away, they're really not interactive or engaging in some of the other things that they once brought them joy. That might be these may be a combination of warning signs that there might be something else going on. We also may see individuals oftentimes tend to talk about not having purpose, feeling lost. That kind of shows us that there's a disconnect from their community, or they're feeling this sense of emptiness or lowness, or this uncertainty that it just hasn't been filled. One other thing that oftentimes I see in working with people is this sense of kind of the in addition to my purpose, but also like, who am I? Maybe I'm not who I thought I was, or kind of the sense of like trying to figure out life all over again. And sometimes that's very hard for individuals when they already have a combination of other things on their plate, in terms of life and just dealing with circumstances and stressors. Okay, so those were just some examples of kind of what I perceive to be as like more passive warning signs, or general warning signs to individuals that may be having some suicidal thoughts or giving things away. They're sullen, isolated, not connected to their community or obligations. They've stepped down, or they're giving their items away, feeling trapped, feeling lost, no sense of purpose, things like that. Another area I wanted to address a little bit is also talking about some of the things of talking about risk factors. Okay, so you can have, when we talk about like warning signs, I break it down in the category of like what's imminent, what you definitely see, what's happening right here in the moment. Also can be perceived as what's observable. Then I talk a little bit about general warning signs, and then maybe sometimes those behaviors that's just a little passive in nature. I'm not quite sure what that means or what's going on. But then there's this other category where I think that is important that we talk about, which is risk factors. And risk factors are not things that say if you have this, then you absolutely are going to have suicidal thoughts. But it, again, as I started and as I opened this video and the conversation, is when you have a combination of factors, it can increase your likelihood for an individual to experience suicidal thoughts. So risk factors is just a part of that. Okay. So some very common risk factors are untreated, or perhaps poorly managed mental illness, or substance use disorders. It also can be the worsening or the exacerbation of a mental health condition that an individual has. Okay. Other risk factors can be recent trauma, loss, death, a car accident. Perhaps you've already have a trauma that has occurred in your life, and something else has recently happened that's like re-triggered, that has triggered you. Sometimes individuals that have been in like maybe a trauma has been in a car accident, witnessing a close encounter can bring back some intense emotions and feelings, and it's almost like you're back in that moment again. So just being mindful of those things, in terms of like your trauma has been triggered, or you've been triggered by something else that's going on in your life, right? Other predictive factors can be, risk factors can include the lack of social support. I think that's a very big one, especially during this pandemic. Individuals that tend to really have strong support systems tend to do better, right? If you have a strong sense of community, people around you, that ability to engage, things like that. But if you're lacking that, oftentimes that can be a risk factor. Just saying, risk factor to you're not doing well mentally or emotionally sometimes. So those are just a couple examples of risk factors, okay? So we've talked about warning signs. We talked about those passive things, maybe those very imminent and observable things. We talked a little bit about risk factors, things that can, if you have other things going on, and then you also have the combination of maybe a couple of risk factors involved as well. Those things can also kind of increase the likelihood of an individual experiencing those suicidal thoughts. But there is this thing called protective factors that can also help reduce the some of the impact of the other things that may be going on, or the impact of the warning signs or the stressors in our life. And I want to talk a little bit about those as well, because life isn't always perfect and sometimes we have hard things going on. And one of the solutions, perhaps, as you work with someone, or you're in a relationship with someone, or a friend or a family member, maybe you're noticing some of these things that's going on, and maybe you're not sure what those things mean, but maybe you just want to make sure that you try to focus on a protective factor, right? That you want to be a protective factor for that individual. So let's talk about that a little bit. So protective factors can include or be basically you being a part of that person's social system, being a part of a support system to an individual. Other examples of protective factors include a religious affiliation, the ability to engage in meaningful employment, being a part of leisure activities, the ability to be a part or take part in leisure activities is a form of a protective factor. In essence, what a lot of those things are is that you have a sense of community around you. You have a support around you. There's an expectation and an obligation on that person. Like, I have to show up. I need to be present. Someone's relying on me. Those are all conditions of protective factors, right? So if you think about a relationship, or maybe you're a parent that your kids are relying on you, or maybe you are employed and you like your job, going to work or being a part of an employment or a social system or circle where you feel good, you feel like your cup is being filled by people or other things, those are protective factors. So although there's a lot of risk factors that's there, perhaps there's a lot of stressors and other things going on in life, maybe as we talk about how do we figure this out? How do we navigate this rough patch in our life? We can, maybe you or other people in your life are not trained mental health professionals, but maybe you can be really good at being a protective factor for someone else, or making sure that the individual stays engaged in the things or protective factors that's naturally innate in their life, okay? So that was a lot of content in a short period of time, but I thought it would be really great to maybe combine these things together as we talk about suicide. We talk about risk factors to suicide, but it's also good to know that this is not something that lasts always. Just because you're in a rough moment now, you're experiencing suicidal thoughts now, does not mean that those thoughts or that symptom can't get better, right? There's lots of options for treatment. There's lots of things that you can do, or natural or maybe more organic or social systems, things that you can try to engage and pull on if you're starting to feel stressed or heavy. But certainly, if you are experiencing suicidal thoughts, I encourage you to talk with someone, reach out to a crisis line, get connected with someone that can listen to you, understand what's going on, and help guide you to get connected with the most appropriate provider or support system at that time. These were your mental health minutes. I hope you found them to be helpful today. As you'll hear me say in every video, do something great for someone else. The goal of these videos are to reduce the stigma around mental health, and I hope we did just that today. Thanks for checking out my channel. Please thumbs up, like, subscribe, and all that other great social media stuff so that you can be notified about when new videos post and all that other good stuff. So do that, do something great for someone else, and have a great day.